How did one of the most revered animals in Thailand become one of its most exploited? Most people who visit Thailand have an elephant experience of some kind. Riding an elephant in Thailand used to be as ubiquitous as riding camels in the Middle East. But over the years, more information has surfaced about the mistreatment of elephants in those settings. But that story is about 10% of what's actually going on. The real story is far older, stranger, and more fascinating than anything in a brochure.
What is your greatest reason for hope?
I went to Thailand having done extensive research about which animal sanctuary I was going to visit. Elephant Nature Park outside Chiang Mai ended up being the clear choice, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. Even with all of my time spent with animal activists like Jane Goodall and Alicia Silverstone, I wasn't fully prepared for what I experienced there. My day at Elephant Nature Park began early in the morning. I stepped into the Sprinter van where 7 others were already buzzing with anticipation. We drove into the sanctuary on a dirt road, and before we'd even parked, we saw the elephants, moving freely across the open land, doing whatever they wanted. By that point in my trip, I had been seeing elephant statues, trinkets, and images everywhere I went. Something so pervasive that most Westerners make the obvious connection. But how did the elephant become almost synonymous with Thailand? As it turns out, elephants and Thailand have been inextricably linked for over 700 years, linked through war, economy, religion, and national identity. An encounter with an elephant in Thailand is a historical experience. One of the oldest written records we have of elephants in Thailand comes from a stone stele from 1292. On it, a young prince describes fighting an elephant duel. He records elephant hunting, elephant trade, and a specific white elephant that the king rode during religious ceremonies. So, in a single record from 1292, the elephant is already seen as a military asset, a trade commodity, a ceremonial vehicle, and a sacred symbol. To really understand the elephant's role as a sacred symbol, you need to meet the rare white elephant. In Thai Buddhist cosmology, the white elephant's significance was born alongside the Buddha himself. Buddhist texts describe Queen Maya, the Buddha's mother, dreaming of a white elephant with 6 tusks entering her right side. Soothsayers told her this meant her child would become either a Buddha or a universal ruler. That single story turned the white elephant into a symbol of divine kingship across Theravada Buddhism. In Thailand especially, owning a white elephant meant a king's reign had been endorsed by the heavens themselves, which is why the number of white elephants a king held was seen as a direct scoreboard for his moral authority and divine favor. Rama I had 10, Rama V had 19, Rama IX had 21. By 1921, the Wild Elephant Protection Act declared that any white elephants discovered in Thailand must be presented to the king as a matter of decree. White elephants in Thailand were even worth going to war over. In 1563, the Burmese king demanded that he be given 2 white elephants by the Siamese king, who had 7 white elephants and very humbly called himself Lord of the White Elephant. The king of Siam, as you might imagine, said no. So Burma invaded Siam with 60,000 soldiers, 2,400 horses, and 360 war elephants, all in the name of owning white elephants. Hundreds of years later, from 1855 to 1916, the Thai national flag was a white elephant on a red background. For 6 decades, the elephant was practically the face of the nation. Being a sacred symbol is one thing, but elephants were also, for centuries, the most powerful military technology in Southeast Asia. Think about what that actually looks like. A 6-ton animal that could be trained, that could run through dense jungles, and that caused chaos among horses and infantry. The war elephant was the tank of its era. Elephants were eventually retired from warfare in the late 1800s when King Rama V modernized the military. But their usefulness as laborers stayed firmly intact. And understanding how that transition worked requires understanding something that tends to get lost in the story. The sacred status was always extended to the elephant as a symbol, but that didn't necessarily mean elephants were treated well. See, making an elephant useful to humans for war, for ceremony, for labor, requires breaking its will first. The process used to do that is called the Phajaan, or the crush. It entails separating baby elephants from their mothers so that they can be confined, beaten, and deprived of sleep and food. The ultimate goal is to subjugate the elephant until it has no choice but to accept human control. It was done to war elephants and to elephants that carried kings to temples. For elephants in Thailand, reverence and cruelty have always existed in parallel. The only thing that changed in the late 1800s was the elephant's job description. The teak industry in Thailand exploded in the late 1800s when British and European trading corporations secured logging concessions. That industry ran almost entirely on elephant power. Once felled, teak logs, which weighed up to 2 tons each, were dragged by elephants from forest to river using chains. From there, the logs floated downstream toward Bangkok. The humans who made this possible were the mahouts, known as Quan Chang in Thai, which roughly translates to elephant keeper. 2 ethnic communities built their cultures around this work, the Karen people of the Northern Highlands and the Kui people of Surin province in the northeast. Both communities' ethnic identity, religious ceremonies, and even elements of their tribal language developed around their relationship with elephants across generations. The mahout bond was a lifelong vocation. A mahout typically received his elephant in childhood and stayed paired with that animal for the rest of his life. In the early logging era, an estimated 100,000 domesticated elephants worked across Thailand. Then, in November 1988, a catastrophic flood hit the south of Thailand. Thailand's forest cover had dropped from 53% in 1961 to 28% in 1988. Instead of being absorbed by tree roots, water rushed down the barren hillsides, wiping out whole villages and killing hundreds of people. The link between deforestation and the disaster was undeniable. So in 1989, the Thai government revoked all logging concessions. Overnight, thousands of elephants and the mahout families whose identities and livelihoods were tied up in them woke up with nothing. They received no transition support from the Thai government. With logging gone, many mahouts had to improvise, fast. They took their elephants to Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Pattaya and started begging, walking their elephants down city streets, selling fruit to tourists at inflated prices. At its height, a mahout could pull in thousands of baht per day, more than logging had ever paid. By 2009, you could find roughly 100 elephants begging on the Bangkok streets, walking on asphalt that wrecked their feet, breathing in exhaust, some reportedly dosed with amphetamines to keep them going for longer hours. Others ended up in tourist camps. Trekking operations started cropping up everywhere in Thailand, offering elephant rides, shows, and tricks. Visiting an elephant camp became one of the signature things you do in Thailand. Before COVID, elephant tourism in Thailand was generating between 581 and 770 million US dollars a year. By 2020, roughly 2,800 captive elephants were working in the tourism industry, each one a living, breathing capital asset. The numbers make the pressure clear. An elephant sells for anywhere between $30,000 and $80,000, depending on its age and sex. And feeding one elephant can cost $15,000 a year, whether it's earning an income or not. And that's not including the mahout's pay or veterinary expenses or facilities maintenance. That math produces a predictable outcome. An asset this expensive has to keep generating revenue. There's no slack in the system for rest, rehabilitation, or any kind of decline in productivity. And when demand for elephants outpaces the existing captive population, as it did through the 2010s, there's economic incentive to breed more elephants into captivity or to capture them from the wild. By 2017, a World Animal Protection study found a 30% increase in the number of elephants living in captivity at tourism venues since 2010. And inside those tourist camps, the Phajaan is still happening. Baby elephants are still being crushed into submission. Bullhooks are used for control throughout a working elephant's life. Riding itself causes physical damage. An elephant's spine is not designed to bear external loads, and wooden saddle platforms create pressure sores and permanent spinal deformity throughout years of use. That's the cycle sanctuaries in Thailand were built to disrupt. Lek Chailert started that disruption. Lek grew up in a hill tribe village in northern Thailand, in a community whose relationship with elephants runs generations deep. In the 1990s, she began building Elephant Nature Park, the first ethical elephant sanctuary of its kind in Asia. The model was simple and radical. Rescue elephants and let them roam free. No riding, no performances. It became the template for every serious sanctuary built after it. Through the 2000s and into the 2010s, NGO research, shifting travel industry norms, and social media pressure turned what Chailert had started into a movement. And that is why Elephant Nature Park is the obvious choice for anyone like me who wants an ethical way to experience elephants. In 2014, Intrepid Travel became the first major global travel company to ban elephant rides. Over 250 companies followed, including TripAdvisor and National Geographic Expeditions. The share of venues still offering rides dropped from 92% in 2010 to 43% by 2024. But here's the catch. Because the total number of elephants in tourism venues grew by 70% over the same period, the actual number of elephants being used for rides only dropped about 20%. And here's yet another catch. Elephant bathing and washing experiences, heavily marketed as ethical, have since replaced many of those elephant riding practices. But these so-called ethical experiences often require many of the same control mechanisms as the practices they've replaced. In fact, a World Animal Protection Assessment from early 2026 found that 69% of elephants in Thailand's tourism industry still live in conditions considered inadequate. Elephant Nature Park is the real deal. But the industry surrounding it has gotten very good at absorbing the language of reform without changing its underlying economics. Which means that seeing ethical on a website means almost nothing if you don't dig deeper. That's the context I was driving into without even knowing it when I visited Elephant Nature Park on that bright blue sky day in January. Our guide was a small and direct woman who spoke about each elephant like they were her own family. She knew every elephant's history and spoke about their traumas with respect and care. One elephant had gone blind from years of tourist camera flashes. Another elephant was missing part of her front limb. A third had been so traumatized that she had to live alone in her own wide-open enclosure. And then there are the mahouts. The way a mahout moves around his elephant is a language built over many years of daily life together. It's a level of attunement that communicates everything that matters without a single word. There were two groups of visitors the day I went. At some point, we mixed together, and the elephants started responding differently depending on who was nearby. Some people were moving fast, bouncing from pose to get the best shots. The elephants seemed to notice. They'd shift their weight and create distance. Elephants can recognize themselves in a mirror. They go back to the bones of dead family members years later and touch them. Picking up on someone's intention is well within their range. I tried to move slowly, speak to them with respect, and stay present. The elephants I fed that day allowed me to caress their trunks and spend time close to them. One elephant allowed me to walk alongside her on the way to the river. Every moment spent close to an elephant felt like a deliberate choice she had made to let me into her space. It was a life-changing feeling. Now, if you go to Thailand, you'll know the context you're walking into. The elephant you see in that enclosure, or on that road, or in that sanctuary, its ancestors were war machines that decided the outcomes of kingdoms. They were the engine of a logging industry that ran for a century. They were sacred enough that countries went to war over them. That context deepens the experience. Because when you understand what these animals have been through, what they've been assigned to, what they adapted to, what they're still navigating, standing near one that chooses to turn toward you and let you into its space will change you. What places like Elephant Nature Park are doing is removing the assignment, letting an elephant just be an elephant. And when you do that, when you show up slowly, when you're actually present, when the shot is secondary to the moment, what you find is an animal that still chooses to engage, that still turns toward you. After everything elephants have been through in Thailand, that is quite a gift. Thank you for watching. There's a lot more coming on Globocurious, like how my time in Guangzhou, China forever changed how I think about communism and economic power, and what Taiwan's complicated identity reveals about the future of geopolitics. If this video moved you, share it with someone who needs to see it. I'm working toward 10,000 new subscribers every month, so liking this video, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell gets us there. See you next time.